Something dramatic played out in Nsukka, Enugu state that has now set tongues wagging and raised fresh questions about the tax system in the state. A man who claimed to be a tax collector stormed the location in Nsukka to enforce payment, but instead of obedience from the residents, what followed was pure chaos. The supposed revenue officer, realizing the crowd was turning against him, was seen hastily walking away. His steps quickened as residents chased after him. In a matter of seconds, the scene turned from tense to humiliating. The man, desperate to escape, ran straight to the fence, climbed it, and leaped over like someone in an action movie, leaving the crowd behind in disbelief. That jump, caught on camera, has since gone viral, sparking outrage and heated debate across Enugu. But here's where the story takes another twist. Prince Ezeh Josh, an aide to the Enugu state governor, reacted swiftly on his Facebook page. He released a photo of the so-called tax collector alongside what he described as a fake ID card, calling the man an imposter. Josh went further to urge members of the public to provide useful information that could lead to the arrest of these alleged fraudsters. This incident comes at a time when the people of Enugu are already on edge over what many describe as suffocating taxes, from ground rent to business levies, from Eswama charges to multiple other dues. Residents say taxation in Enugu has become a nightmare, stifling businesses and frustrating small-scale traders who can barely keep their shops open. The anger in Nsukka is therefore not just about one man with a fake ID. It's a reflection of deeper frustrations boiling beneath the surface. In fact, I personally put these concerns directly to the Enugu State Commissioner for Finance. Many residents had complained to me about being overburdened by the multiple taxes. So I asked the Commissioner point blank, what is the state government doing about this? His response was telling, and it sheds light on how the government views both genuine tax collection and imposters who take advantage of the situation.
That is meant to be answered by me because IGR, the Enugu State Bureau of Enugu State Internal Revenue Generation Service, is directly supervised by my office, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development. So I think the question came to the right person. So what I will tell you is that if you listen to His Excellency during his 2 years in office speech, I think it was made clear that since we assumed office, we've not increased tax rate. What this administration is doing is to expand the tax nets, or what we may call the tax base, and also to block the loopholes where individuals siphon public fund in the pretense of collecting tax for the government. I think that's exactly what we've done. There is no single tax rate that has been increased since the assumption of office by His Excellency, Barrister Dr. Peter Ndubesemba. Well, what we did...
People are complaining.
Yes, let me explain. You asked me the question and I said is a question meant for me. When we assumed office, we did what we call a background check. There's nothing. One good thing about this administration is that His Excellency, Pastor Dr. Peter Ndubesemba, selected technocrats, not politicians. Like me, you know that I'm coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about taxation, you know that it's not a new thing to me. After having lectured public finance for so many years in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So all these things is what I know, both theoretically and practically. So what I'm telling you is that when we assumed office, we did a thorough background check to see what is actually going on. Because of course you are aware of the big promises that His Excellency made to Enugu. And I and you know that these things cannot be achieved in a vacuum. And it cannot be achieved without finance. The programs need to be financed. And there are only two ways, or let me say three, where you can enforce this financing of the programs. One of them is the FAC allocation, which you know clearly that it is exogenous to us. It is not within our control. Then the second one is this IGR. The third one is when we now talk of the public-private partnership in enforcing most of the programs. And all these things, they have stages. The PPP, which is the most, let me say the best out of the three, is something you have to prepare ground for. And that is what we're doing. We call it public-private partnership. And private people enter into business only in places where they believe that their investment is secured, one, and that they are there to make profit. So you need to prepare the ground for them to come in. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we did that background check, and we found out that so many businesses in Enugu don't pay tax. The bulk of the businesses are what we call the informal sector. They are not registered. Nobody knows about them. And it's not that they are what we call the micro or small enterprises. You have a big firms, big merchandise that are not paying tax in Enugu State. And it cuts across all the country, not only in Enugu State. So what we did was to see how can we bring these people into the tax net, not increasing the tax rate. In fact, we don't have right to increase tax rate. A state don't have right to increase tax rates. The tax rates should be uniform across the country, and is being if there's any change to be occur, it should be from the federal level, not at the state level. So what we did was to introduce what we call the e-ticketing. The e-ticketing is what we used to collect taxation from the informal sectors. And that taxation we're collecting, yes, we had some challenges initially. As I told you the last time I was here, the challenges did not actually come from the individuals paying tax, but from the leaders who were making use of both their colleagues there in the market and the government, collecting money in the name of the government but not remitting it to the government purse. So what we did was to try to block that loophole by introducing the e-ticketing. That e-ticketing is a process where all the taxes are being collected. Like before, if you go to Ogbete market, they pay union dues, they pay environmental, they pay the one they called tax then, but it doesn't get to the government. So what we did was to collect all these things and lump them together into one, so that you pay tax only once. And also, we did it in a way that it is affordable. The rate is very low, and is also categorized into monthly, quarterly, or annually. If you want to pay your own monthly, you have the right to do that. If you want to pay quarterly, you have the right to do that. If you want to pay annually, that means you pay tax only once.
That is for shops and businesses.
For shops and businesses. That's why I'm referring to the informal sectors. Okay. You do it like that, and once we collect the money goes straight into the government's purse, not to any individual.
Because it's digital.
It's digital. That's why we call it the e-ticketing. Then from there, whatever is meant for the union dues, which is actually supposed to be used for maintenance of the markets, is returned back to them. Those ones that are meant, for instance, if it is village, those ones that are meant for the village town councils, is being returned back to them. But the problem they are having is because this process made everything transparent and traceable. They were no longer able to eat the money without accounting for it as they used to do before. And as a normal human being, they will complain. They will set their boys to be complaining. So I will tell you that if you really do a real market survey of those individuals that are actually paying this tax, you see that they are not the one complaining. Those that are complaining are those market leaders, town union leaders, and their boys that they were using to collect the tax before. For instance, those that were doing collecting the haulage before, where an individual will come and give government maybe 1 million in a year and say, okay, from all this Nsukka Enugu road belongs to me, I collect produce from there. And you know what I'm saying? They will station their boys along the road with woods and nails and all these other harmful instruments they were using. They will be collecting the money. At the end of the year, they may collect billions of naira, but they paid only 1 million to the government. We blocked it. You don't expect them to keep quiet. You don't expect those their boys to keep quiet, because this is from where they were making their earning, though illegally.
Right.
So my summary is that the complaint actually may not be coming from the real people paying the tax, but from those people that we deprived the illegal ways they were making their living.
Okay, what about the strategy for enforcement? Because we've also heard people say things like, especially for ground rent, that's a private building now.
Yeah.
It tends to say that people of the government come to give them a notice of ground rent payment, and afterwards, 7 days into it, they just come in and start arresting people arbitrarily in order to pay them. What is the strategy? Do you think that's the best way to go? Because I actually have an experience of someone who actually told the story.
Okay. Let me brief you on that aspect. One is that you know that ground rent is somehow new. Just as I told you, we did not introduce any new tax system. We did not increase the tax rate. What we're doing is trying to enforce the existing tax. Though most of them were not being implemented in Enugu State before, but they are not new taxes. They are already existing taxes that are going on everywhere. As I'm telling you now, just last week I paid my own in Abuja, my house in Abuja.
Ground rent.
Yes, the ground rent is being enforced everywhere. Let me come. You are hearing this because it is new, and in Enugu we do proper awareness before we start. That notice is a mandatory something that you have to give a notice. Like even where I'm living here as a commissioner for finance, it was pasted on my door, and the day I saw it, I just called the Enugu State Internal Revenue. I saw this. How do I do it? What is the criteria? And seamlessly, I paid my own, because in that demand notice, there is a date given to it that if you don't respond within this date, then it will attract enforcement. And once the enforcement comes in there, it's going to attract charges. So the question is, if you see that thing on your door and you're really a good citizen of Enugu State who wants Enugu to grow as it is growing, everybody is hailing Enugu State now. Let me tell you, nothing good comes easy, and you can't eat your cake and have it. Absolutely. Anybody who is praying for Nigeria in distress and you don't want to pay tax, my dear, I don't know the God you're praying to. All of us are running to the Western world because they are developed. But do you know, you are aware of the tax system that is going on in Europe and America and these other developed countries. The question people should be asking is not the tax they are paying, but what it is used for. Given that His Excellency Barrister Dr. Peter Ndubisimba is ensuring, just as he said at the Opera Square, that there is accountable for every penny that is spent in Enugu State, then I don't think we should be entertaining these complaints.
All right, so we have just 2 minutes to go. Are there other things that you want to say? Because I actually have a whole lot, but this particular was the one that stood out. But if there are other things you can do within 2 minutes.
Okay, I think because of the question you asked, the major thing I will say is that I will encourage Enugu to support these God-given gifts to us through His Excellency Barrister Dr. Peter Ndubisimba. He has come to change Enugu, and he is changing Enugu. He made a promise of moving us from a $4.4 billion economy to a $30 billion economy. You may not know the implication of what he's doing. He said that tomorrow is here. So many people did not understand what he meant. But seeing the smart schools he's building, seeing the smart farms he's building, let me tell you, there are states where governors will stay for 8 years without achieving what His Excellency has achieved within 2 years. 800 kilometers of road, 50% completed. My dear, this is not what governors achieved in 8 years, but he has achieved it within 2 years. Do we talk of the innovations in agriculture? Do we talk of the water they said is not possible in Enugu, and you see what is going on now? Is it the security? Were you not here during the Christmas period where all the big people in the southeastern states came to Enugu to celebrate their Christmas with their family because Enugu is secured? If you see the number of investors that are trooping into Enugu now, you know that the money that is being collected, whether as tax or via the FACA location in Enugu State currently, is being judiciously utilized. And what I'm assuring in the Enugu is that this is what we call the investment period. The time will come for reaping.
So what does this mean for the ordinary Enugu resident? Are imposters now exploiting the unpopular tax climate to scam people, or is this incident a symptom of a deeper disconnect between government policy and the lived realities of citizens? One thing is clear: that viral jump over the fence might look funny on the surface, but it has opened up a very serious conversation about taxation, trust, and the daily struggles of doing business in Enugu State.